Hello, hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We have most people muted just so that it's not a crazy sound right now. Uh, but you'll definitely have a chance to ask questions and everything else. We're just going to give a brief intro. Hello, hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. We have most people muted just so that it's not a crazy sound right now.
You have the stream up. There we go.
I know, I got it.
Cool. Well, hey, from Chicago. My name is Scott. I'm on staff with Group Muse, and most of you think I've already met Christos, but Christos is tuned in from just north of Boston. And this hour is ostensibly for you guys. We're trying to put together a curriculum to make our productions as powerful as possible and as useful for you as possible. So we're gonna move through like the first 20 minutes, trying to give you some really practical, useful things about how to make your best stream possible on a Group Muse and otherwise. And then the other part will be just Q&A, what your experience is, what landscape are you looking at, and how we can best support one another. We'll be building resources on the daily and weekly basis and compiling it in the Group Muse Facebook page for musicians, which we will admit all of you guys into that, as so long as you're on Group Muse, please, or on Facebook. So please let us know if you're not in that, and we can get the resources to you otherwise. But we're just so grateful for you spending your time for this hour with us, and we're gonna make the most of it. So the first bit, Christos is gonna give you the lowdown on tech production, and I'll let him take the floor.
Yeah, welcome everybody. It's great. We got a good first turnout here. We're going to be doing this every week, so every Wednesday at this time. Hopefully that's a good time for everyone. But they're also all are streaming to our YouTube channel, so you can find them all there. They'll all be archived. So if you miss one or you want to revisit something, they'll be there for a reference. So yeah, I've spoken with some of you, and others have probably seen the emails we've been sending out over the month, kind of with updating you all on what we're trying to do as far as the streaming side of things. And I know we've made some changes because we're kind of slowly dialing this in, but they've become more and more geared towards giving musicians the tools to be very self-directed in creating events, because we realized over time, the traditional Group Muse model is very host-centric, and it's about hosts creating events and then obviously musicians putting offers onto those events. But with the virtual space, it's a little different. Some people are interested in hosting, but obviously it's really easier in this format to have the musicians who are very self-motivated to really take the lead. So we're basically setting everyone up to give them the tools to do that, and to make it so that once you go through this onboarding process, you'll actually be able to create your own events and just be in control of that. There's a little more on the musicians in this context to both help to get the word out in their own network, since there isn't technically a host in the same way, as well as find someone that they can have as a sort of ally during the event, as our format is, as most of you know, we're using both Zoom for the social element as well as YouTube for the streaming. The reason we do that is because YouTube is just better audio video quality than Zoom, but we want to keep the sense of community and connection in the social element, which Zoom offers. So between the two, that's really the best combination that we can use right now with the technology available to us. So just to give a very brief kind of outline, and this information is available in a tutorial. If you haven't seen it already in our emails, I'm just putting it right here in the chat. So if you click on that link, it'll open up a basic guide that we've put together on how to get streaming on YouTube, as well as a link to a tech guide which goes into what kind of equipment you need to do that. So just to briefly summarize, in order to stream on YouTube, you need to download a broadcasting software program for your laptop called OBS. It's free, and what it does is it allows you to take the video and audio that is on your laptop and send it to YouTube so it can be broadcast on YouTube. And there's a video tutorial in that document as well that you can watch. So I'm not going to spend too much time getting into specifics of all of that, but basically, once you get both your equipment squared away, which we basically require an external microphone and a working camera, laptop webcam is like the basic, and then there are other levels beyond that. But once you have your tech, once you get the YouTube OBS thing squared away, and then also have someone that can help you with Zoom if you need the help to have Zoom open as well. Once you have all of those things together, then you are ready to take the next step forward, create your own events, so on and so forth. Just as far as, I'll just kind of make up a couple basic questions I've been getting a lot so far. The first one is, what is the good basic bare bones setup you need tech-wise to start streaming? And as I just mentioned, an external microphone. The easiest way to do this is just get a USB mic. There are a few listed in the tech guide that run between $150 and $350. That will be good in most situations. They're not going to give you super high quality audio like a mic made specifically for the instruments you're using, but they'll give you good enough sound to sound much better than just using your PC speaker or something like that. And then another question is, can you use anything other than the laptop, like an iPad, to stream? So the way YouTube works is you need more than 1,000 followers to use their built-in streaming broadcasting thing, but actually there is a workaround to that, where there is a program called Streamlabs that is also free. It's very similar to OBS, but I just put it in the link as well, but they make that for use in mobile devices. So technically, yes, you can stream using a mobile device. You will just need a kind of microphone or interface that hooks into a mobile device, first of all. And second of all, you will definitely need someone to help you with Zoom, because there's no way to have Zoom running while you're streaming. So anyway, those are just two basic questions of, what's the bare bones setup? Can I stream on a mobile device? We'll get more into a lot of that, but like Scott said, we're really here to find out what you guys are experiencing and address those questions in a way that we can all help each other and learn from each other. So that's just a basic tech overview for now. And I'll just pass it back to Scott.
Right on. Thanks, Christos. And could you mention again, we have no kickbacks for mic sales, but so all to say, what are the mics that are viable for musicians on the side of budget friendly that will make it work for us?
Yeah, so they're, like I said, they're in the tech guide, but I will also put them here, and they are basically they're made by two companies. One is Yeti, and so there's there a lot. I know a lot of people have different Yeti microphones, like the Blue. I'd say the one that really we would recommend is the Blue Yeti X, which is about $170. Sorry, I'll get you the link now. And then there are two mics, sort of, if you wanted to, go up slightly from that are both made by Apogee, and they're the Mic Plus and the Hype Mic, and those are $250 and $350. And they are also, plug and play. So you just plug them right into your laptop or your mobile device. And I'll get the link for that in a second. But yeah, those are the basic kind of, all-purpose USB mics that you don't have to use anything else to get working with.
Right on. And you mentioned the Ally. Could you talk a little bit about what a production collaborator, what would be the use of having someone else in the room to help you with those things? Can you say a little bit to that end?
Yeah, definitely. So with Zoom Ally, just meaning, you're going to be having OBS on, and you're going to be streaming to YouTube. So you're sort of monitoring already these two programs. It's not so complicated once you get the hang of it, but nonetheless, your attention is focused on that, and your computer is focused on that. So it's processing that. So to have the best both performance and just for your own, well-being and concentration, it's good to have somebody else be in the Zoom space for you, because before each concert, we gather in Zoom for like 10, 15 minutes. We hang out, kind of imagine Zoom as like the audience and YouTube as the stage. And so, people are rolling in, they're saying hi, and that's where your Zoom contact would basically be there, saying hello to people, just letting them know that concert's going to start soon, maybe even providing the YouTube link, and then staying in Zoom during the performance, which a lot of people do, even though everyone's muted and is watching the YouTube stream. And then afterwards, when it's done, it's kind of like now you leave the stage and come down and join everyone in the audience, hang out, do a Q&A. At that point, you can even take over the Zoom. So it's just having that point person there to hold the space for you, so that's you're not jumping between all these things. Since all of this I know is all new and overwhelming, we feel like that's just one thing too many to be able to manage and give a good performance. So that's basically the Zoom ally part.
Right on. Thanks for that clarification. And then Christos and I, we've been doing group muses almost 7 nights a week, and we're trying to find the best way possible to learn how to finesse these as quickly as possible. And almost without exception, folks using YouTube streaming for the first time and managing the Zoom meeting for the first time and trying to do all those things, like 7 new things all for the first time. There's usually at least one thing that has a hiccup. So it's nice to have someone with you in the room to say, can you manage the meeting? Your uncle is having a hard time logging on. Can you text them for me? It really is nice when you're like mother-in-law. That doesn't have to be the thing when you're trying to pull off a partita. And I speak that not as I'm not a trained musician, but I understand it's nice to have like a singular focus. So to have someone in there can relax the shoulders. It's really great for that. Great. So thanks so much, Christos. And the next 8 minutes, we're just going to talk a little bit about the iterations of Group Muses online so far. Of course, a really exciting part to this is it's not just reduced to who's in the neighborhood or who's in the city. It really gets exciting for time zones that folks turn in from all coasts, outside the country, in the city, you name it. Folks come in from a lot of places. And almost without exception, they've been really great turnouts for musicians first time on, because friends, family, cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone sort of comes in for the hang, and it becomes a sort of reunion experience, which is just a delight to endure. And as someone, you feel like myself coming in, it's like I'm being introduced to the family a little bit in a really exciting way. And so we hope that's all your experience. And what we're trying to think about is, as you're having your first and your second group muses, how to best take that really exciting first concert experience where you're having your whole network turn out for you, and how do you make that a sustainable thing where it's not just your aunt comes once, but your aunt brings her friends and her book club to come to your next group meeting, whether it's in the same week or then to bring something of a series and along. I'm sure you guys have all been given the litany in conservatory about having email lists and having your consort and be able to plug your stuff and all that. So I'm not going to condescend and say those things, but we're trying to actively start that conversation about how to best bring that into this experience at Group Muse, because we understand a lot of your gigs are canceled otherwise, and this is could be a primary means when it comes to live performances in a frequent way. 2 tools that are on our platform specifically for this end is that, one, you have a follow button. You can attach your social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, to your profile. And what that allows folks to do is obviously see your Instagram and see your social that you pump all of your material through, as well as when they click follow, they're notified every time you create an event. So anyone who follows you shows up that Jane Doe is now playing a Group Muse next Friday, and they should come to your stream. So that's something that Kyle built, which Kyle's in here. I'll give him a shout out. He's on the call, and he built these, and he's giving so much of his week to making this product as good as it can, as quick as it can. And then the second tool that's really important is the co-hosting feature, which is something that we're actually really interested in for musicians to use in a collaborative way. Because we have folks all over the country on this call right now. And as it might not surprise you, you guys are in very different networks. And what the co-hosting feature does, if my friend Alex hosts me when I play my Group Muse, what that enables Alex to do is invite everyone he's ever gone to a GroupMuse with, which is vastly different than my network. So when I tell everyone I know about who's coming to my GroupMuse, and Alex tells everyone he knows about who he's hosting, his homies, who's also in Chicago, you multiply your effects basically when it comes to the promotion on the platform. And so we're curious about how we can best utilize that tool on GroupMuse in a way that, frankly, you guys were all playing every night all over the place and you couldn't go see each other's shows. But now that shows aren't quite as frequent, we can redouble our efforts to bring one another to each other's shows in this new format, in this new way. Did I miss anything, Christos?
No, I think we're good. There's already a lot of questions in the chat, so
so we just wanted to hit the tools and what we have thus far, and as we're actually in the process of scaling up our capacity for web development, and our platforms are hopefully getting better by the day, and so we're going to bring new features to you in due time. But we would love to reward you now for the next 40 minutes for you taking time out of your day to see this and see our latest. We want to give you the floor and for you to ask questions. It's both effective through text and through voice. So you can raise your hand, and then we'll also address the text questions for sure. If the hour runs out and there are still questions coming through, we will email everyone who's in attendance today, so you don't have to feel like your question's getting out.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I can probably try to fly through a lot of these pretty quickly that people have already asked. The USB mics that I mentioned, the question is, are they good for ensemble play or just a single instrument? Like I said, they're kind of like an all-purpose mic, so it's a lot about positioning, but they will work decently well picking up an ensemble. I think that is fine, but it's a lot trial and error, and microphones are, they're really a personalized thing. So it would be really difficult to address everybody's microphone needs. That's something that I definitely recommend doing your own research and trial and error, and asking around other musicians who play your instruments to see what works for them. As far as with, let's see, Zoom. I mean, using Zoom. I mean, Zooms are also great things when they have the built-in microphone. It's great to use, and some of them you can also put in XLR microphones and run that into the computer, which it kind of serves in place of a preamp. So basically, like I said, there's USB mics, which is sort of the basic way, and then the next way is to buy an actual audio interface. Again, these are listed in the tech guide. Most people are familiar with what that is. It's like the Focusrite Scarlett, ones or whatever people usually get. And with those, you can run any external mic that has an XLR, connection into the USB interface and send that to your computer. So Zoom, the Zoom devices can work as an interface in that way, which can be useful for those who already own them if you want to add more mics to your setup. Let's see. As far as someone mentioned upload speed, and you do need, when you do, there is a speed test that you can do on your computer, which is also in the tech guide, but I'll include it here in the link. But that will give you both your upload and download speed. And the upload speed is really the most important one, and really realistically, if you're under 7 megabits per second, it's probably going to be difficult to have a good stream. You can definitely talk to your internet provider. If your performance isn't good, you can look into getting a new modem and also a hardwired Ethernet connection into your computer versus using Wi-Fi. Those are all ways to try to strengthen and stabilize your internet connection. As far as, if OBS is something that's daunting to you, and the tutorial video isn't helping, definitely you can set up a time with me to go through it, the technical details of it. I know there's putting a lot of links in the chat right now, but I guess this is the best way to do it. This is a link to set up a time with me one-on-one to help you with that. Let's see, and I'll take a break from these in a second, and we'll try another way to address this. I don't want to just keep talking forever like this. Let's So yeah, as far as playing in real time, there are a few different things. There's Jamkazam, which is mentioned here. There's Clean Feed, which is another one. Audio, yes, it is possible to get pretty good, syncing up with not much latency. The main challenge right now technologically is once you bring in video, it's a whole other story. And to patch people in simultaneously, audio and video with low latency and high quality sound is not something that really exists yet. Steinberg, the digital audio workstation, offers something that I believe has good audio for that purpose, but the video isn't that great. I think technically you can still stream it on YouTube, though. For people who are interested, you can check that out. And I don't want to give everyone too much information, so if you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe let's just take a pause for now. We can get back to more questions, but let's shift the format a little. I don't know. I haven't been paying attention. Scott, has anyone been raising their hand or anything? I mean, we have people who are physically raising their hands. Okay. I mean, I see Aaron right here.
Thank you. Christos, you're an amazing host. So huge shout out to everyone for doing this. Quick question is, does the stream go on my channel or does it go on the Group Muse channel? And yes.
Great question. Yeah, I saw that in there. Really, it's kind of like we encourage you to do it on your channel. If for some reason, like if we absolutely, if there's no other way, there's some tech problem, then we can do it on our channel. But we're really trying to empower musicians to be as self-sufficient as possible. And also it helps your network because then you have this video and people can tune into it. We have no interest in storing your performances, or we want you to have all of that. So the best way to do it is that you set yourself up both on OBS and YouTube, stream OBS right into YouTube, and it's all yours.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Larry.
Hi, how are you?
Hey.
Hello to everyone out there. I just, once I go through the whole OBS system, which I've done a couple of times, and I got over to the channel, just the concept, the concert is a live stream, am I correct? Or is it a recorded stream?
It's live. I mean, the latency is 15 seconds or so, but it is definitely live.
Okay. Because I did other live streams and you're right when you say you need another person with you, because the stream went, they had an audio person, a video, the whole thing on the other side, and they were telling me what to do. So it'd be great if I had that. But anyway, I just want to make sure. Then I go to the YouTube. Once it automatically goes to my channel. Am I correct?
So basically on YouTube Live, you can schedule an event. You can create an event, or you can schedule an event in the future. Either way, you're generating that event on YouTube Live. And then once you do that, and this is in that video tutorial, but the screen will open where you'll see some information on the bottom, and one of them is called the stream key. And so you want to copy that stream key. Then you go over to OBS. You go into the setting there to input the stream key. So that OBS knows where to send the stream, and then it goes straight to YouTube from there. And then it pops up in the YouTube preview. So you get that feed in, confirmation that it's there. And then there's a button that says go live. You click go live. So you're sending that feed from YouTube, from OBS into YouTube, and then you click go live. The stream goes live from there.
Perfect. Thank you. I needed that flow chart. But one last little thing. Mm-hmm. As far as the Zoom is concerned, okay, I could have, right now I'm talking to my Big Mac, but on my MacBook, I can have, or vice versa. Yep. I can have the Zoom. And that's going to give me what I'm looking basically at now, right? Everybody in the room.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm doing both. Okay.
You can do both, or like I said, you can find someone remotely or whatever.
Which would definitely be better.
Because then that's one less thing for you to worry about.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Christos.
Sure.
For the record, for those new to Zoom, you can raise your hand in the participants. You click on participants, and then you can click on raise your hand, then we can see who has a question if you don't have a screen. Daniel Rowan?
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, we're going back.
Okay. Okay. You got me?
Gotcha.
Thank you. Great to see everybody. Thank you so much for hosting this. I've done a few group muses myself. Hey, I presented Aaron here in Folsom, and he's awesome.
Cool.
Great to see you guys. I don't know the rest of you, but I'm just really glad for your technical help. But I have a couple questions. One is maybe it's more of a suggestion. I really enjoyed the Quarren Trio group muse. Man, that was great. Except that when the interval happened, we lost the social aspect of group muse. So my suggestion then is to take that camera into the kitchen, into the snack table area, and just, be hosting and saying, and this is so-and-so, and just keep that flow of group muse going. That's one suggestion. And then, frankly, I've forgotten what the other question was, but it'll come. So thanks, everybody.
Sure. So just to be clear, so you were saying basically during the intermission, it was because they kind of like walked away and
Yeah.
felt like there was a disconnect. Yeah, I mean, and that partly, that intermission is really there to just obviously break up the set and maybe also give the performers a kind of break. But in the future, as things get more sophisticated, maybe they'll actually just put up a little picture or something that says intermission 2 minutes or
Yeah,
5.
well, all of my group muses have been successful in large part because of, in addition to the music, there's that connection and accessibility to the artist and to the audience with each other, and it's like a party with a theme. And so from the get-go, you might have the co-host just taking a picture on Zoom around. When I teach here, I've been teaching with multiple cameras. You can just take your phone and with you and bring the audience along with you into the group muse home, and be with the artists. By the way, that was I remember the other question, which was social distancing. I have a duo, and we live physically close enough to play, but we're in separate households. What are your suggestions about just having a live stream with and including the group muse gathering, the people, and just maybe a tour of the studio, but some socializing?
Right. Definitely a big, priority of ours is to cultivate the feeling of community as part of the group music experience, right? That's really what group music is principally about. And so because of the technology challenges, as I kind of alluded to before a little bit, to get the best audio and video quality, you really need this to use one of these more one-way streaming platforms where all the data is being used to send that information one way. As we're with Zoom, the reason why we can kind of miraculously all see and hear each other, not necessarily simultaneously hear each other, but simultaneously see each other and one at a time hear each other, is because the compression, the bandwidth of the audio and video codecs are very low. So it allows for this kind of fast exchange with very little latency. Now, but that obviously doesn't work so well if you want a full bandwidth of audio with all the rich, acoustic sounds and everything. So that's where we are kind of right now in the predicament of having to use this one-way stream for the YouTube performance, but then we do bookend it with the Zoom experiences where, exactly like you were saying, of where, so when the artist is preparing before the performance, they're welcome to join the Zoom chat, and so you'll see them on, maybe their cell phone as they're getting ready while they have their laptop and their rig set up. So they'll, you can pop in, you can say hi to everybody. It's kind of like they're in their virtual green room and they're opening the door and going, hey guys, and then, and then the curtains are drawn and the YouTube stage performance happens, and then afterwards they come down and hang out with everybody in the Q&A afterwards. And that's very much how they've been going. And the Q&A has been going very well in that sense because it's very focused, even more so than a regular group muse, where people, many tens, hundreds, whatever groups of people get to ask someone very direct questions and hear very direct responses. So it's like a give and take. It's a different kind of social experience, but that seems to be the best way and we decided instead of taking a break in the middle of the YouTube stream, it would just become a little too complicated, too many jumpings of platforms. So that the way that we're doing it right now is just that's like the only little pause we have. But if a certain musician wanted to do what you were discussing, I'm sure people would enjoy that as well. And we're definitely open to to feedback and suggestions on that. Okay, so let's see. Scott, have you been checking anybody? Is there anybody we should be moving to next?
Could you just clarify? I want to make sure everyone sees this about why do they want to have their own channel, and what do they have to do once they have the YouTube stream created? Where do they bring the link to as it relates to the GroupMuse interface?
Right. Okay. So
how do I get my stream embedded into the?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So as we discussed, we want you to have the YouTube video you're streaming on your own channel, right? And so, okay, that's good. So how do you get that channel connected to GroupMuse then? And so basically, when we have all this in place, we're empowering you to create your own events. So you've figured out all the YouTube stuff. You've generated an event on YouTube. That's going to go live at this and this date. Now, when you go to fill out your program, like you normally would at any GroupMuse, there is a little box where you can input that YouTube link, and then it becomes embedded in your GroupMuse event page. It'll show up when you register for an event, like for if someone registers for your concert and they go to your event page, it will show first a link to the Zoom chat, which is kind of a reverse way of explaining it, but you'll also schedule that ahead of time, and we can help you with that by giving you a Zoom account that allows you to do that. That's a separate subject we can get into later. But then there'll be the embedded video right below that, which is the one that you just inputted in the area where you inputted the program information, and then below that there'll be a donate contribution button. So it's all we're trying to consolidate it all onto that one page, so you can just direct people to that page for everything that they need. And yeah, does that clarify that part, Scott?
I think so. Yeah, it might seem hard to explain, but once you hop on the site and you're putting in what's the note you'll play, you'll see right next to it is where you drop your YouTube link. And there's a question about the exact role of the OBS as an encoder. What does it do exactly? Could you speak to that?
Yeah. So basically, OBS, like I said, it's a broadcasting platform. It's free. It's open source, and what it does. So like when you stream on like Facebook, for anyone who's done Facebook Live, you just go there and then you just kind of hit record it, you can start streaming. In order for that to actually work, there needs to be a kind of encoder that's sending that information, to be streamed online. So the way that YouTube works and a lot of other, video video platform providers work is that they don't have an encoder built in. As I mentioned, YouTube does have an encoder, but you have to have 1,000 or more followers to use it. But the advantage of using something like OBS is also that it has a lot of things you can tweak. Like you can put reverb plugins into OBS to add reverb to your sound. You can't do that using Instagram or Facebook Live or YouTube Live's encoder. So once you get familiar with the program, you can actually tweak it. You can play with the color levels. You can use LUTs, if anybody knows what those are, to mess with the color. But basically, what it's doing is sending the information that your computer is receiving audiovisually to YouTube. It's streaming it. Without the encoder, you can't send any information anywhere to be streamed at one of these sites that hosts the video.
Right on. That's super helpful. And as a quick show of hands, how many of you have had a performance on YouTube Live? that's like half on with the video screen. And in the chat, if you don't have a video, if you just like put an X for no and then a circle or an O for yes, then we can catch how much. It's not YouTube, great.
And also maybe to add that show of hands, how many people have performed on Zoom through GroupMuse thus far? Yeah. Yeah, and this is what, and again, we kind of want to like, not exactly apologize, but just like give context of, we've been on this journey too, and I know we've kind of been asking musicians to kind of, not jump through hoops, but it's like, first we're like, okay, Zoom, everyone get familiar with Zoom, and then it's like, okay, YouTube, everyone get familiar with YouTube, and now it's like, okay, Zoom and YouTube, like, it's all yours, and so, you know, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but again, we're Scott and I are going to be kind of creating almost a curriculum for all of this, both through our interactions with you guys here, as well as just throughout the week with our individual experiences with everyone along the way. So this is really, you can see this is like a forum where we're all hopefully learning from each other. And as Scott mentioned, we're going to have a Facebook page that everyone can be a part of to you know, start their own conversations with each other. And give their own tips as well, which could be great if you're like a guitarist and want to know what mics somebody else is using, or, you know, whatever. I'm having this issue with my internet and maybe somebody figured out a workaround, or, you know, whatever.
Exactly, yeah, and it's both like, you know, kind of like tripping over my shoes in these first events where we've had situations where you have a YouTube, you're playing YouTube live, but incidentally you had another tab open in which you were streaming that video. So you'd be playing live, and then you would also be hearing the 10-second delay. And it's like this sort of a looping system. It's like some avant-garde museum exhibition. So there are things like that, which is like, oh no, like how do you fix this? And like, you know, somebody will call you and you have to sort it out. But also I think we've had like an average pay of like around $400 a night, which is more than 2 times that we've ever had for GroupMuses. So like, we're getting all kinds of weather in these opening GroupMuses, and we're just trying to learn as quickly as we can. Jeremiah had a question in the chat, and I'll just let him mention it. There you go. I muted you, Jeremiah.
Have any pianists found a good way to mic a piano for a GroupMuse? I found a way on Zoom to mic it pretty well, but then when I moved through OBS, it was just terrible, and I could not fix it. The miking issue, at least.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, I remember talking about this just recently, and it's very curious that we were having issues with OBS with the mic, and I think that's something I'd be happy to troubleshoot with you sometime one-on-one, and maybe what we discover in that would best answer that question, because I feel like it's a very specific question to maybe the mic you're using and how we can position it and how we can work it out. But I'm very curious to see why we're getting that issue with OBS and not Zoom, because, you know, Zoom's audio codec, as it's called, is very narrow. It's designed for speech, and so if anything, that should get overwhelmed first. As we're with OBS, you're going to have a much wider spectrum of sound to be working with. So I think let's definitely let's find a time to dial that in. You know, before
okay.
I can say anything else.
On Wednesday, so a week from tonight. I'd love to do it before then.
Okay, all right, yeah, that sounds good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
And then Sasha had a question a while back about concerning OBS. Lots of OBS questions, which I think is a sign of something. Bringing things from Logic to OBS, then to YouTube Live. Has that been something that's been done before, and the results?
Yeah, I mean, you can totally do that. Depends on, I mean, like, you know, whatever you're using Logic for, whether it's a filter, some kind of effect, or even a music accompaniment. There are a few ways there are like these rerouting software, you know, programs that allow you, like if you're using Mac, there's one called Loopback that is pretty cool. You got to pay for it, but it allows you to take any audio source on your computer and reroute it somewhere else. Like imagine it like being like cables. So it's like you got one cable and you just plug it in and you stick it into OBS. And so then it will show up as an audio source in OBS. So Logic will, or whatever, will just show up as your audio input source and you just select it. And and you can add multiple sources too. So yeah, you can totally do that. You can, anything you have in your computer, you can route to OBS with the right software.
Right, and there was a question also about ensembles performing. Two parts. Playing simultaneously is not a good idea. Like anytime you see folks performing, like the Philharmonia or London or whoever, they have they've recorded pieces where they're all playing their parts like you would in a studio. So it's not simultaneous. The latency is not okay. So they have to be in the same room. But you can have multiple performers playing and someone managing OBS and patching folks in separately, which will merit in the coming weeks ahead. Christos has done this for several weeks in a row now, patching different performers in at different times, which I know many of you are not just playing individually, but are parts of ensembles and parts of collectives. And we hope this can be a useful tool for you to have X orchestra featured on a Friday night, and you want to have 5 artists playing, and you want to feature all of them to go towards your cause or go towards your GoFundMe or whatever you're looking to do. There's a way to do that all through OBS. So that answers.
Yeah, and just to kind of further clarify that, to do that, you actually don't you use a program called Stage 10. At least that's one that you can use. It's actually the simplest and, interestingly enough, the best audio quality. It doesn't have a lot of like amazing production features. There's all these like high-end programs you could use, but it's a newer one, and it uses a good audio codec that gives you good sound. And so it's called Stage 10, and I'm putting it in here too. You can click on it, but basically it allows you to sign on as a as a user onto this website program, and from there you assign your sources like you would your audio and video inputs. You select them, and then you sign in, and then you give a link, just like you would with Zoom. You give a link to someone else to come join you there, and they'll show up and they'll do the same thing. They'll assign their audio and video sources, and so then you can basically take turns, kind of like like we're doing on Zoom when we take turns talking and the screen shifts to one of us. You can assign who you want to be live on the stream, and you can direct that to YouTube or Facebook. You can direct that stream. So basically you can patch in people from multiple locations using this Stage 10 program all in one YouTube stream. So if you wanted to have a night of music that features 6 or 7 different performers, you could totally do that and just keep alternating between them. And it's very easy to use, actually. Well, I mean, it's pretty easy to use, and you don't have to worry about OBS. You can just use that for that purpose. But it's a separate thing. But a lot of people are asking about that, and I think it's really cool. But yeah, as far as playing together, like I said, yeah, that's a little more tricky right now. It's something that you can experiment with in your own research, but there's nothing out there that I've seen so far that I'd like totally recommend trying it with the exception of maybe that Steinberg program I mentioned that I don't have a lot of experience with yet.
Right on. And I think we haven't mentioned this in the call yet. All these things will require a Zoom Pro account, but if you soundcheck through us and get approved for us for performance and to host, we will pay for your Zoom membership, so you don't have to worry about that expense. Kaisa has her hand raised, and I can unmute you. Just a moment. I always get to do that.
You got her. I got her. Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
I want to thank Christos, because I was completely overwhelmed with all the technology, and I was actually able to do it. So I have done 2 live streams. So I just want to let you folks that haven't done yet that it is possible. If I could do it, you can do it. So yes. I have one comment about the microphone for the other pianist that was asking. I'm using Blue Yeti, and I'm pretty impressed with the fact that it's not too expensive, and I'm getting really good sound result with it. So I recommend, but it's a very sensitive microphone. So even if it is a minimum, it gets pretty good sound. And my last performance, I felt that when I got loud, even at minimum, it got a little distorted. But I have a huge piano, so
Yeah.
you really have to adapt.
Yeah,
Anyway, and the other thing I want to say is that has to do with the folks that attend the events. They are usually of, over 50, 60, and some of them had difficulty figuring it out. Two things: going to Zoom, and then from Zoom to YouTube, and there was a delay a little bit. So I had a really nice host who was very patient with them. So that's one thing that it would be, the more clear we are with people who are not used to that, the more helpful it will be for the audience, because they are older generation. The second item that I had over 6 people write me and complain that they were confused was with payment. They said, how can I pay you? How can I pay you? And I had to keep explaining I was not handling payment. So again, the more clear that could be, I think more helpful would be. The other thing that I was going to say, that I was very tense on my first live stream, because when it was the day of the performance, I still didn't know how to go from, the actual schedule, not schedule. So I end up scheduling like 1 hour before when Kyle called me, and then I left my computer on because I was too afraid to press any button and not work. The second time I learned, thank you, Christos. Christos sent me an email, and I learned how to schedule it. So my point is, Christo, you're great. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate this source of information. And I really appreciate that the Group Muse has opened this venue for us to survive, to be able to do this. And my concluding point is that for you folks who haven't done yet, it is all possible, and it's really fun. I did too, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. I want to improve on the sound, and I'm a little concerned with the latency. It's it kind of, you're looking at one thing and then it's not exactly what's happening, and then you start doing something else. So that's the only thing I wish it was a little bit we were able to improve. But anyways, thank you so much. And, I think we should all try, because it's possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for saying all that. It's inspiring, and yeah, I totally agree. It's a journey that we all are taking together, and that's the whole point. Is that we can all help each other along in that process, and there's no reason why we can't all make it there. And to address the payment thing, yeah, I mean, we hopefully the host, and again we'll go more into like the Zoom stuff on another time, but should be at least dropping a link a couple times during the performance, at the end of performance, in the chat, explaining that, and maybe verbally mentioning it. People will also be receiving an email after the performance with that information. So that's like a very easy way to say, well, if you can either pay now at the link, or you'll just receive an email that will remind you, but hopefully we're trying to work all this out over time, where we can, I don't have a timeline on it, but our goal is to try to continue to refine all this, and maybe even at some point have it all exist on one platform, where, but that's too early to tell if we could do that, but meaning like the YouTube, the donate, the chat can all be one thing, but that's kind of still very kind of thinking in the future. But right now we're hiring a developer right now, and once we have that developer, we'll be able to refine the presentation on the website even further, so that it's more simple and clearer.
Yeah, there's a question about payment methods, Stripe, PayPal, Venmo, Square. I mean, the short of it is that you are taking all the money, so we just want to make sure you're getting paid, and we're not the IRS. We just hope that you tell us how much you're making, so we know how successful people are, and we can use correct metrics. If there's if everyone switched to PayPal and like there's no money, like we don't see how people are contributing to you, like we just don't know how to tell if we're doing a good job or not, with making payment solicitations, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's like a real thing. And I think another part that's important in this, when we're thinking, oh, we're going to be hosting our own, and that's fine, and I've done group music before, and I guess I'm just going to make my own. The money ask is something that's an important part of the hosting role historically in group music, and it sort of very quickly is like, oh wait, there's no one else to ask for money, and so I think a sleight of hand that I'll have to go more into is thinking of creative ways in which you can have like a sort of plant in the audience that could be your advocate and say, like, pay my homie money, like, make sure they contribute, or taking up different ways of talking about how you need to make a contribution and making it in terms. I mean, the important part about it being on group music is that they've said, I think it's 3 or 4 times, each time you confirm that you're going to a show, you're also confirming you're going to pay a minimum of $10. This isn't a donation. This is not some like suggested, maybe if you feel like it. It's like an agreement that I will pay a minimum of $10 for who's going to the program. So we understand that's like a new thing for you when you're self-hosting, and we want to embark on this journey of finding the best ways to solicit that, so you're getting actual returns on your investment. So there's a question about Anna. I see you raising your hand as well. Can I unmute you? There you go.
Hi. While we're on the subject of compensation, hi. So good to see you guys. I've kind of noticed a little bit of an awkwardness or confusion about compensation. When someone registers on GroupMuse, they can say they're bringing a +1. And I think people aren't quite clear how much they should give as a unit, like if it's $10 for the 2 of them or more. And I'm not here to police anybody. It's just been kind of a consistent confusion I've noticed in GroupMuse.
Yeah, I think it's a very good, you found you found one of our retrofit problems, which is that, in the physical world, I mean, basically we've taken our platform and the best we can try to very quickly adapt it to virtual performance, which is on the whole worked okay. But that's one thing that I wish Kyle was on right now, because I can't remember. Maybe Scott, you do what the latest is of this. But basically, one of the ways of looking at was if it's a +1 that's sitting on the couch next to you, then it doesn't seem to feel right to charge both people there. If they're tuning in for another location and they just feel inspired to contribute, there definitely should be a way for them to do that. Scott, do you have anything in your memory about where we're at with that?
This is one of the early questions we felt, and it was about a month ago when we were thinking about this, and making it almost like when people talk about Netflix, how it's like per device, like you pay $10 per device, or any number of however those that platform figures out their models, and it's a similar thing in that we've had people answering equally as strongly on both sides of the conversation, where 5 million people get laid off each week and applying for unemployment, and it's like me and my kids are here and we're on the same couch. Are all of my small children due to pay this as well? I thought I was just like tuning in for $10, and it's actually, I'm Irish Catholic. Oh, because I have 6 kids now, it's $100 thing to watch a violin. So it's definitely one of those tricky things that we haven't put a hard policy on, but the language we've given out, which is not ambiguous, is that all in attendance should make a contribution, no matter anything they want, minimum of $10 is what we've said without exception, and the returns have never been better, but we haven't like answered that by the letter yet. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Definitely. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we haven't made that formal, like this is the per device thing, and this is like per anyone over the age of 16. Like we haven't done any of that yet. We've made it specifically ambiguous because we're trying to sort out what is the best way to talk about it. So it's not vaguely specific, it's specifically ambiguous.
Yeah, I just put it under our topic of conversation for our team to discuss tomorrow. So we'll definitely be revisiting that. And I also just wanted to make it a little clear. I can't remember if I said this already or not, but as far as the payment process, how it works is when people sign up, just like they do for regular group muses, they pay that $3 registration fee. That gets them access to the event, and then they'll receive an email with all that information, and then there's during and after the performance the opportunity to contribute that $10 or whatever they feel inspired to. We still use that format, and it seems to be working quite well. I mean, as Scott was saying, it's working very well. It's just, again, a little more on the musician to get the word out in their own network. Rather than relying on a host to invite all their friends, it's kind of up to you. And we obviously post it on the website, and we send out our weekly email blast with that information. And in the future, we will probably have other tools that you can use. But right now, it's really, the more you can get the word out in your community, your network, the better. And the good thing is that it's not limited to time or space, so you can really send that out to anyone you want. And also, someone asked about the sound check, and I think that's an important point to address, which is that once you get familiar with all of this stuff, with the OBS stuff and everything else, then Scott dropped a link at some point where you can go to a kind of fake event to submit a YouTube video to, but you can also just email it directly to me. I'm going to put my email in the chat here. It's just christos@groupmuse.com. And once you get comfortable doing these YouTube, sound checks for yourself, like streaming, because every time you stream live, it archives it, right? And you can stream that publicly or privately. I think, Aaron, you had a question at some point is like, do I let other people in my network know? And we're not going to not let you do that because it's your call. You know what I mean? You could even do that and have the donate link or some other way to send you money down there. GroupMuse is really just a platform for you to use, But if you wanted to keep it within GroupMuse, you could just have that video be unlisted, and then the only way they could access it is internally. So it's totally, again, your call. But
it's important to note that there's an edit when you're making your own events to actually increase the minimum payment. Which you can make it more than $10. So it's 10, 20, 50, or make your own. So you can, it's adjustable on the platform because it's ostensibly your event. There's one more question.
That's in GroupMuse, Aaron. Sorry.
And David had a question. David S.
Yes. Yeah, David's been patiently waiting with his hand raised the whole time, right?
In the last 3 minutes.
Yes, but I actually asked some of the questions during the chat just now, and one of which you just answered,
cool.
Which was if we could choose the own minimum price, artist contribution price that we wanted.
Yes.
Is there no way? Another question that I would have is, well, first of all, also thank you very much, you guys. It's wonderful what you're doing. I really appreciate it, as does everybody here. Is there a way to make sure that people pay before they actually watch the concert, instead of having to ask people during the concert for it? That it's just like a ticket to getting into a regular concert. Mm-hmm. That's not possible.
People can pay at any time. If you want to communicate there is a way to message all attendees on the GroupMuse on your events page. If you want to send a general message out, in that way, you're welcome to. The reason we do it this way is that we just find that people are actually quite generous during and after the performance. It just seems to work very well, this model. And so it is the model that we use, and we kind of just have kept it that way from the house concerts, and it seems to work well. If you have any concern about the ask, again, it's pretty apparent on the site. They'll be receiving an email after. So we could talk about that as far as, and I think we should actually dedicate maybe one of these talks, at least a good portion to it, on that kind of stuff. And Scott and I can talk about that and have that be a topic of discussion perhaps next time.
Okay. Yeah, because I like the idea of a very clear commercial transaction, instead of feeling like the idea of Patreon or somebody giving you something, a donation. I just prefer, it's like going to a concert or going to a movie. You pay your $15 and you get to hear the thing. And not to sound snarky at all, but as I understand it, that's how it works with the $3 that goes to GroupMuse too. if they don't decide in the middle of a Group Muse concert to pay Group Muse $3, I imagine that they have to pay the $3 before getting some sort of link to the live stream. And I think it would make sense for it to be like that for the musicians.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand the exactly
Can I
the
respond really quick? I think
Right.
you brought up a really important thing, and like we've like been thinking about it for, I don't know, 10 years now.
Yeah.
Specifically this thing. So your question is really important, and we don't want to like, because we have a fast answer doesn't mean we've thought about it fast. Like it's been a very slow.
I know. Yeah.
That we continue to consider actively, and frankly, this is the biggest change in music history. Like bar none, the music economy will never be the same. Maybe the gramophone is a big deal, but like this will never be the same for live performance. And so what you're saying is taken super seriously, and I think it's a legitimate question to repose the question under these new guises, to say like it's not worth going to something if you don't feel like you're for sure going to get a check. And the sort of the decision we made before was knowing that the host would really like, get on their friends to actually, pay the musician what it's worth. When that's not the case anymore, it does repose the question in a different light, to know that, no, you need to know if 10 people are going to show, you're going to get $100. Like you need to know that. And if we could show that proof of purchase beforehand, that makes sense. You wouldn't show up to work if you didn't know if you were going to get paid. So I think it's a super legit question. And Group Muse is $3. It's a very similar question. We didn't want to make it more like the whole idea of doing percentages, like, oh, Group Muse will just take less than a certain percentage, because we wouldn't want to like increase the bandwidth or whatever. Where if it's like, if you got $1,000 contribution from someone, you wouldn't want us to take 30% of that. So we wanted to make a minimum viable ceiling for us, where it's like, okay, we can do this. It makes sense for a platform. But what you said is duly true. And like Christos said, we need to talk about it like first thing tomorrow, because it is such an important, essential part of the political economy, is how this will work moving forward. When you don't have the host to really like, this is my great apartment, I gave you charcuterie and wine. Okay, now I need you to pay,
yeah,
you possibly can. I think it's a totally legitimate question.
Yeah.
And the hour already, which is remarkable. I have to run to my next thing, which I'm just devastated that I can't talk with you guys all day. But Christos, do you have any sign off before next week?
No, yeah, I feel the same way. I could go on. We could obviously go on about this forever, and there's more to talk about on that subject as well, obviously. But if you have a question that we didn't get to, please send me an email or write it to support@groupmuse.com. You can do that too. We will be creating a Facebook page, or we have a Facebook page now for this particular group here, and so you can join that. We'll be emailing that information out as well, and we'll post our next Wednesday's Group Muse Zoom, link for our meeting at 3:30. Like I said, this will be every week at 3:30, and we're super happy that you guys came and want to see you again, and bring anyone else you think would benefit from this. So yeah, just really, really grateful to be sharing this with you guys, and hopefully we have been helpful today, and will continue to learn and be more helpful in the future. So, any closing remarks, Scott?
I think that's it. Martin, I'm so sorry. Martin and I were neighbors in Chicago. The email went out, I think, on Eastern time, and you caught that now in Central time. But the good news is this is all recorded on YouTube, so you can hop over to the YouTube link, and it's streaming. You can see it from there. Cool. Awesome. Well, if that's all, talk to you during the week, and the latest at Group Muse, and the latest at the next week.
Yeah. Keep going, everybody. We'll see you. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.